one of my all-time motoring heroes. Yes, it's a Subaru Impreza Series 1, Mark 1, but more than that, this is the rarest of the rare, a JDM import 3-door STi Type R. And if you like drives of interesting and unusual cars like this, then please do hit the like and subscribe buttons. Now, on with the review. Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and today we're talking about this, one of the greatest road-going rally cars of all time. Yeah, the Subaru Impreza. In the roll call of rally cars that have made it from the car park to the forests of Kielder back to the car park again, this has to be one of the greatest, and this incarnation, the big fog-lighted first generation Impreza, is absolutely the best one. The best looking, the best sounding, just the best really. And this particular incarnation is particularly rare as well. Now, the Impreza came to be, first of all, in 1992, a replacement for the Leone, and it was going to be called the Loyale, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, because that's just a silly name. It didn't reach the UK until 1994, and by then there were already starting to be various special editions. There's one thing Subaru love when this particular range of cars, it's a special edition, a limited run, changing the name and changing the spec. So by the time this arrived in 1998, there was already plenty to choose from. However, this one was the one you chose if you wanted something very, very fast indeed. Now, from the outset, there were two body designs, a 4-door saloon and a 5-door hatch estate thing. It was really not one thing nor the other. And then, of course, there was this. This was very, very limited run to have 2-door only. These were the highest of the performance cars of all, and they were really destined for the rally car on the World Rally stage. So apart from this one, there was the STi Type R, there was the 22B, there was of course the rally car itself, and later on in the year 2000, there was the P1, which was for the UK only. Now, the stylist of this car did a pretty incredible job taking a fairly ordinary, mundane workaday saloon and turning it into, well, a world rally car. The one thing I'm most impressed with is the fact they fitted an exterior T-shelf. So you can have your picnic around the back. Perfect for watching rally cars and stuff if you're out and about. Thank you. Now, although the boot lid and the lights are common to pretty much all Imprezas, although this car being a JDM import, it has got the clear lenses with orange bulbs inside, whereas a UK car would have orange indicator lights to make them, you know, legal and stuff. One thing that does vary radically year on year, year within year, model to model, are these back bumpers and the extra aero bits that go on it. So if you're going to be backing into things, think twice before you hit too hard. And something that makes this car stand out enormously from a shopping version of a WRX is this exhaust pipe, which you can literally put your fist inside. Wish I hadn't done that now. And the first time I saw one of these cars was in the late 90s. I was a backseat passenger in a car on a motorway, and one of these came hurtling past, and you heard the engine just shouting before it got here. And looking over my shoulder, I saw these huge fog lights, and these have always been a defining feature of these early Imprezas for me. They are such a distinctive looking car, and distinctive in the right way, unlike some of the later models which became distinctive for maybe not the right reasons. There's lots of detail, lots of very rally-inspired chunkiness and fins and aero and stuff that actually works. None of it is here for fakery, it's all here because it needs to be, which is quite refreshing in a world of stick-on pretend stuff. Now, here under the bonnet is a very interesting place. At the heart of it all is this flat 4 boxer 2-litre turbo intercooler, which has actually got a charge cooler bolted into the bonnet. Being the STi Type R, this has got all the extras that all the tuners want to have, but fresh from the factory. So the cooling system is in there, squirting water directly into the intake to cool things down. The fully adjustable suspension right here from the factory. And we've even got the carbon fibre strut brace, complete with the Fuji Heavy Industries Aerospace Division label, which is the thing they all go nuts for. This car, being a JDM import because it's only sold over there, has got lots of interesting little Japanese labels all over the things. No idea what any of them say, but it's fascinating to have them, and the kind of thing we like. Now, an interesting thing you may notice here in this engine bay is this big blue earth system. There's lots and lots of individual earth in heavy gauge cable going all over the engine bay. It doesn't really make a lot of sense until you think about the fact that there was a rally version of this car, and possibly this was for homologation purposes. So all this stuff was here from the factory on the plans, the designs, so when the homologation people came to look at it, they could say, yep, fair enough, there is a cable there from the factory normally anyway. Now, walking up to get into the car, you'll notice, as well as being a 3-door, it's a frameless 3-door. I've no luck with these cars. I always tend to break their frames inside the door. But this one, being a Subaru, hasn't. Fuji Heavy Industries know what they're doing. So this is interestingly soft tactile plastic. It's a vinyl-y, almost soft touch material over a velour. It's Alcantara, in fact. Insert, giving a nice lightweight, softy, touchy thing in the world everywhere. It's all just plastic door handles and things, no shiny, chromy stuff. And there is a big rocker cover, and there's a big rocker switch to lock him and unlock him. They do seem to love that a lot on these Japanese cars. Tweeter, mid-range or bass speaker, so despite the fact it's virtually a rally car, we've got some good audio. Lots of more black, just blackness really. It's just a sea of black on the arm of the door. Front electric windows, one touch on the driver's side, not on the passenger. No electric windows in the back because not opening windows. But let's climb in and have a look at what else we've got. Lots of interesting Japanese stickers because being a JDM import, there's lots of stuff that's come over from its past life. And we'll look around and see what we can see. First of all, big T-shelf action, lots of room for your snacks, sandwiches and drinks to live here on the dashboard. Important on a rally stage to be refreshed at all times. And we'll start over on the passenger side for a change, which is a bit unusual for us, I know, but it is an unusual dashboard because we have got 3 glove boxes in here. There's no passenger airbag for reasons of lightness, so we've got a glove box here in the centre, useful cubby hole. Where the airbag should live, we've got another cubby hole. And in the usual place, we've got an actual glove box, which does contain more Japanesey stuff. This is all the instructions of how to do things to the car, which mean very little to us in this country without the aid of Google Translate. I think this is a service record. Okay, so rolling back from our adventures in dashboard storage, let's have a look at the dials and things in front of us. Now, the wooden trim has been added by the owner. This isn't factory standard. However, the white dials and this turbo gauge actually are, because, you know, rally and stuff. So we've got our main dial in the centre, like on a Porsche, is the rev counter going all the way up to 9,000 RPM, redlining at 8, but it will still spin itself quite happily in that top region. And the speedo in kmh goes up to 180 kilometers per hour, which is fast. And an unusual thing you notice here in the centre of the dial, this is something you won't find in many cars. This is your centre diff indicator to show how you've set that up. You won't find that in your Fiesta. So moving backwards, we have got our Momo leather wheel. This is a touch of luxury in this car, which is very, very nice and tactile, a great size, great feeling, perforated leather and all the rest of it. Momo badge in the centre, which is the horn test. That's excessively powerful. So if you're going on a rally stage and you've got spectators running to take photos in front of you, you can move them when they're trying to take a selfie going through Grisdale Forest. Being a Japanese car, we have of course got our wipers on the left and our indicators on the right. Count how many times I get that wrong on the test drive. And then below that, we've got a couple more interesting things you won't find again in your average cooking model. Fog lights for the front of the car, that's fairly normal. Water spray, automatic and manual, less so. This is for the intercooler charge cooling system. And also usefully, we have got a little pistol pocket for putting change and spare fuses apparently. Additional to the car, since it arrived in the UK, because this is a JDM import, they have had to add an extra switch for a fog light in the rear. This is a red LED hidden in one of the reversing lights, so you don't even know it's there until it turns foggy. Unusually placed here in the centre of the column, we've got a parking light switch, so we can have one side of the lights, just side lights just glowing in the dark if you're parking on a busy road. Now into the centre, plenty of air ventilation stuff happening. Unusual specification choices from Subaru here, because they have not got ABS in the car, but we have got air conditioning, so the weight saving of ABS has been lost to the addition of cooling breezes, but maybe if you're going to rally in a desert or somewhere, that could be quite handy. Other little buttons we have up here: wrist screen heater, hazard lights, and a random pull-out cup holder, which is almost invisible, but I do like the action on that. It's quite flimsy, but good spring action. Moving down, someone has replaced the standard head unit with double-din Kenwood, so that's quite a nice useful thing with sat-nav and stuff. Got power, got a sweetie wrapper tray, and a big kind of flocky lined cubby area, just almost big enough to put an iPhone in, but more important than that, 5-speed manual gearbox, short throw change. It's a very notchy thing, so we'll explore that on the road some more, but I do like the contrast red stitching and more of this flocky stuff, which has gone kind of hard with age, but it was flock once. Moving back into the handbrake, manual handbrake, so you can do handbrake turns and stuff, rally car. And then the centre diff controller, rolling from all the way open diff 4-wheel drive to locked rear diff. And finally, with slightly odd placement for it, is the electric mirror control, so you can adjust them back here. And I genuinely don't know what you're going to put in here. I think Hot Wheels or Scale Electric car rear tyres can be kept in there if you go into a race meet later on and you need somewhere to put your tiny slot car wheels. They can live in that little semicircular holes just there. And we also have more storage in here with an interesting arrow on it, which opens it up into yet another inventive cup holder. So vertical, taking very little space but stopping you putting anything large in there, to opened out to a cup holder, which is actually arguably more useful in that position all the time. Now let's have a look at the seats. These are a mixture of hard-wearing, tough tweedy cloth and Alcantara, and of course we have got the STi logo embossed and coloured in the centre of them. These are full-on race seats with the opening in the top so you can run seat belts and harnesses through there if you want to, and they are very, very grippy indeed. They hold you very, very tight. Surprisingly soft and comfy. These are quite nice on a long journey, although the fact that the car is quite loud does slightly negate the comfiness of them. Now before we get in the back of the car, which is a little tight, we have this interesting seatbelt holder outerer, which you have to slide out the way or roll out the way, and then you can access the back of the car. Lots of adjustment on these seats. Then you can clamber in, and it has got 3 seatbelts, 2 3-pointers and a lap belt, and more of the Alcantara, so you don't slide out. If your mum's doing very, very fast trip to Waitrose, you won't fall out of these seats. More Alcantara in the door sides, well, not door sides, just the side panels, and not much else because we've gone for lightweightness. There's no extra grips, not much else at all. No speakers back here, although the owner has added some quite cool, very 1990s throwback on parcel shelf speakers that have suddenly become very cool in the last couple of years to have those things again. Very retro. And something hubnut fans will be admiring right now, check out the triangle of doom on this rear window. Should we jump out and have a quick look at that? Now the number of cars, saloon cars, with a rear wiper, you can count them on the fingers of one foot. It's not a common thing at all, but I'm excited to see this right now. Whoa. That is a triangle of doom that Ian will be very excited to see. Jumping in the boot, it's actually quite good because this is basically a family saloon car at its heart. You've got loads of space for shopping, for activities, you name it, it's got it. It's all in there. Underneath the carpet we have got an actual spare tyre, which is brilliant, not a stupid inflatey thing. So yeah, very practical rally car. But being the rally spec one, there's no lining up here at all. It's all just bare metal, so it's incredibly light and, well, just light really. Another very Japanese turn of the millennium trait is to get into the boot and the fuel gap, little tags down by the driver's seat, down by your right foot. And the other thing lurking here in the car is the flare. All JDM cars have to carry one of these for safety reasons, and this one thankfully has survived. I don't know if you dare use it in this country, but it's nice to see it here in the footwell. Now, everything about this car just feels potent, like it's ready to just launch into, I don't know, a rally stage on the Lombard RAC. And even though its delicate throttle response rewards you with instant power. You do have to remember, it's all in kilometers per hour on the speedo, so it looks like I'm going very fast, but in fact, I'm quite a lot slower than it looks. I don't think I would ever get tired of lifting off the throttle and hearing that psh from the turbo. Oh, this is easy to get around. The grip is just insane. You can feel it squirreling just a tiny bit underneath you, but it just keeps on gripping and gripping. And the owner just said to me, if it feels like it's starting to go on a corner, just keep your foot down and it'll keep going. Don't worry about it. And he's not wrong, it just wants to go. Like you're revving a motorbike almost. It just instantly flies up through the RPMs. It does have power steering, but it is surprisingly light. I was expecting a little bit more weight from a car like this, but no, it is very, very easy and delicate, but so precise. There is, however, as I mentioned earlier, no ABS in this car. It is a pure rally car, so everything is modulated through your right foot, hitting the pedal as hard as you want to or need to. Because if you're on a racetrack somewhere, you don't want interference from the car's systems nannying you and getting it wrong. But even when you're just driving along, just cruising along in traffic, that fat exhaust though, that is with you all the time. That endless, constant burble. Brr. I can imagine it getting a bit wearing, but again, the owner says it doesn't. It's just something that keeps you alert, makes you feel awake, because the car is just with you constantly. Oh, there you go. First time I got it wrong. Now, the car does feel very, very light on the road, and there's a reason for that. It is basically a stripped out racer. And the way these came to be is actually quite interesting. They would take a WRX off the line, strip it apart, rebuild it, rebuild the engine, use the lighter weight parts, and that's how you got an STi. Then when they did the very limited run of STi Type Rs, these things, they took an STi, they took it off the line, they stripped it apart, they rebuilt the engine, they put the lighter weight parts on, all the extras that you get with the Type R. And here you have it, the Type R. And one interesting thing the owner said to me was that you cannot drive this car in a timid manner. It will not respond well to that at all. You have to take it by the scruff of the neck effectively. The gear change is a short throw thing, so there's virtually no travel on the shifter at all. But it's also quite notchy, quite hard, so you have to just give it quite a firm shove if you want it to go in cleanly. Wow, the way that thing just pushes you out of a corner really is quite incredible. Now the 0 to 60 on this car is apparently 4.5 seconds, which is 2 seconds quicker than your bog standard WRX. It is kind of eyeball-meltingly rapid. And that delivery is just instant. It puts the power down through all 4 wheels, even in iffy conditions. It's just planted and it goes. And if you need to go accelerating around a corner, it still keeps on going. Now back in the 90s, the rivalry was always Subaru versus Mitsubishi, the Evo versus the Impreza, and of course Subaru had Colin McRae as the poster boy, the guy who could make these cars dance, and his name was always attached to the special editions of these things. The first big one, of course, being the Series McRae in 1995 after he won his first WRC. That's 60 miles an hour. This car, of course, does have fully adjustable suspension on it, so you can set it up for a fairly good degree of comfort or extremely hard for track use. Currently it's set quite hard. That does mean you feel every little bump and jitter in the road, but at the same time though, you've got incredible control. With very little body roll, you feel the G-forces more than you feel anything from the suspension. This is a car I've always really wanted. I used to see lots of modified ones of them back in the early noughties and thought they were pretty cool then. Actually cooler in standard form than modified form. This is basically all the good tuning stuff put on from the factory rather than going through a tuning shop aftermarket. So everything's warranted and everything works. But like all the other car values, they've gone crazy as well on these. This car has basically tripled in value in the last 2 or 3 years. Meaning it's something you're no longer going to pick up cheaply and have a bit of fun with. You're going to have to commit to. much like driving it. Let's do a standing start, 0 to 60. That's insane. That's genuinely nuts. I like this car so much. I would definitely get in trouble if I owned it. Oh man, that never gets old. The being pushed backwards into the chair at the same time as the engine is just screaming, the exhaust is rumbling, and that turbo hiss is just going mental. Oh, never get bored of that. Now the advantages of a boxer engine, according to Subaru and, well, according to physics, is that it's a lower center of gravity, meaning you've got better control, better weight distribution. And a boxer doesn't need counter-rotating balancer shafts and that kind of thing, because there's always an opposing force going in the opposite direction which balances the vibrations, making it a much smoother engine. Look at Porsche, look at Alfa with their boxer. Don't look at the Beetle. So, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this ride out in this rare, incredible example of a road-going rally car, then please do hit like and subscribe as always. And join me again next time driving something completely different.